On that power plant, where did you say it was gonna be from where to where they want to?
The power plant is going to be built out by Plant 42, but it will not be connected to Plant 42, so that puts it close to the border of Lancaster and Palmdale. Anyone?
What does the current mayor of Lancaster have to say about it?
The current mayor of Lancaster is opposed to the power plant as well. As I said earlier, if the plant can hurt but one person, it shouldn't be built. So the 14 tons of pollution that's going to be blowing into East Lancaster, that's his territory. There's a lot of people that live there and children. There's schools and there's also churches. Literally thousands of people can be harmed by the pollution of this plant every year. Any other questions?
Yes, Mrs. Campbell, what do you intend on doing for the schooling as far as the children not having any books?
The mayor will not have a lot of control in the school district, but I plan to sit down and speak with the school board members, ask what their plans are, and see if I can offer some suggestions. I'm very interested in the education of our children, and I want them to have a quality education. I have grandchildren as well, and I want them to have a quality education. Therefore, they need to have books that are up to date. So I will speak with them about it, though I may not have any authority in that area. I will speak with them about it.
As you're aware, there's sort of a war going on between city councils for Palmdale and Lancaster. How are you going to reach out to the people in Lancaster?
One of my attributes is being able to get along with people of all ages, race, sizes, and color, and creed, and so forth. I can sit down with anyone to negotiate even the toughest issues out there. It is my belief that the two cities being neighbors, that we really should find a way to work together. So I look forward to sitting down with them as mayor and talking about how we can make the two cities partners where necessary and to work together to help improve the lives of both cities and the people in them.
Ms. Campbell, what's your plan for bringing better businesses and better jobs to the community?
I believe we have enough retail at the moment. And as I said earlier, with the church being at the corner of 10th Street West and Technology, I'm understanding that the current leadership wants to also turn that into retail. Well, retail pay doesn't really pay the bills for some of us who have large mortgages, auto payments, maybe private school payments for our children. So my goal is to start immediately negotiating with various companies who can pay a salary that can help us to afford to pay our bills. And that includes in the computer industry, electrical industry, manufacturing, auto, and things of that nature. I plan to also work toward getting the airport back. That in itself will bring higher paying jobs as well. That's away from the retail realm.
How do you plan on bringing the airport back?
Well, I'm working on that one. I understand negotiations fail before I got involved, so I'm going to have to sit down and come up with some really good ways to bring the people back to the table and just really start negotiating, even if it's from scratch. But my goal is definitely to bring the airport back because that brings more people, more education, more money, more jobs into the area. In addition to that, I would like to also see the city construct a new convention center with the Governor Visitor Bureau. That way we can have some conventions here, for example, so that the people or the organizations or corporations don't have to go all the way into Los Angeles for a convention or to build a convention. They can do it here. That'll bring quite a few revenue to us and more jobs. And another reason for people to fly out of Palmdale versus driving further into LAX or Burbank.
Regarding the high-speed train that you're proposing, how are you going to work that in, or can you work with that as well?
I'm not sure if I can. I mean, we're doing a lot of talk about it now. A lot of that was approved or not approved in prior elections. So really it's going to have to go with what's happening now, but I would like to see the rail stop here. Again, that would do the same thing as what an airport would do, would bring more people here, make it easier for us to go to work if we do work in the LA area and so forth. But I am for it having a stop here in Palmdale.
What are your thoughts about all the schools being closed? A lot of schools are being closed in the Palmdale area.
I don't like it. I've heard about that, and I understand that once the schools are closed, the children have to find their own way to school. I don't like that as well. I think the more appropriate thing would have been if you have to close the school due to budget cuts, then we need to provide transportation for the children to get to the next closest school. So that's something else I'm going to be asking about. Though I may not have any control in that area, I am quite interested in putting in my input.
And also, with that, the schools being closed, it's now being overcrowded, which it comes back to his question about the books. So if you are able to reopen them, do you think you can have some to do with the books being included?
Well, largely, we want to talk about that all at the same time while we're dealing with anything to do with the school district. What can we do to make things better for the children? The children are our future, and if we all agree that the children are our future, then they should listen to me, or at least give me an opportunity to have my say about that. Any other questions?
Yes, I have one more. As far as the ex-cons are concerned, do you have any rehabilitation programs or to train those who are coming out of prison to get them back into the community and the job force?
I think there should be. I'm not familiar with whether or not Palmdale has that, but I am aware that some of the local churches have that, which is one of the reasons I'm very, very serious about making sure that the church is not left behind and making sure that the church is allowed to grow. Because these are some of the programs that the city doesn't like to really handle, but the churches have no problem with that. Because there should be some sort of crossover when they leave and get them back, you know, into society as really good, productive citizens so that they don't go back and commit new crimes. So I'm very interested in looking into that as well. Any other questions?
I say vote for Maggie Campbell.
I have another question. What would you be able to help families with that are in need of child care be able to have programs that would help more families out like that?
One of the things that was brought to my attention, ironically, a couple of days ago, a young lady told me about she couldn't find child care anywhere. And as I began to look into that, I found out that in Palmdale, the current leadership have shut down a lot of city services that were supporting families with children and seniors and veterans for that matter. And they did that in order to take all of that money to pour it into the power plant to come up with that $14 to $20 million. I believe we should not lose any more of our resources, and one of my goals will be to put them back. Because I believe in putting families first, that includes the children. And if families are going to be able to go to work and earn an honest wage, they need someone that they can rely on and trust to watch their children. So somehow, some way, I'd like to bring back a really good program in the city to support mothers with children.
Maggie Campbell, do you have anything proposed for senior citizens to be able to provide more services for them, even more residential places for them to be able to live, to accommodate them?
Yes. I'm of the understanding that the seniors also were tricked into moving into a building here by our leadership. And they moved into the building at a very nice price. But once they got settled in, that price increased and they couldn't afford it. And they were given this ultimatum, deal with it or move out. And for me, that's cruel. I'd like to look into situations like that, and such as the program I mentioned earlier called SAVES, which is the Southern Antelope Valley Emergency Services. That's primarily for the seniors as well, so I plan to do something about that. When I say overhaul, I mean completely overhaul it. Bring in new employees, bring in new volunteers, move it into a better place. For example, the senior citizens' home is vacant. That's a vacant building that SAVES could move into. And make sure that they treat the seniors well. Remember, I was a witness there. I just came in as a regular person, as a volunteer, and they didn't know who I was. And they treated me just as bad as they treated the seniors. So when they realized I was a volunteer, and when they finally realized I was running for mayor, it was too late. I had already seen everything. And they're not treating the seniors well there. And I really adore the seniors. I was raised by seniors. So my heart goes out to them, and they're one of the priorities right along with children. So I will come up with a way, if one doesn't exist, to make it better. Thank you.
What about more programs, like after-school programs for children, instead of like keeping them out, doing stuff that they're not supposed to, so that can keep them all constructive?
Yes, that's very important. Again, families is my priority. And I think after-school programs can help a lot, from helping them do their homework to maybe teaching them new arts and crafts and things like that to keep them off the streets and out of trouble. I also don't like the aspect of what they call latchkey kids, which are children that are raising themselves at home. So I want to put together programs, if we don't have any, and if we do, to make them better, so that when the parents are at work, kids don't have to stay at home by themselves. they can be under supervision at a place where they can have fun and do their homework and so forth. Any other questions?